Okay, guys. Emergency meeting time. The Chiefs are 0-3, and they have multiple games still ahead of them that are very difficult. So today I'm reviewing the games. In particular, I'm reviewing the DFM games because I feel like those are the most winnable games. And even though they played much better into Vikings, I want to review these ones first because I feel like if they're going to beat any team, it was going to beat DFM, and that is concerning. So people also ask me, by the way, I just want to say before I start, why do you care so much about the Chiefs? Why didn't Gran Zero get the spot? Well, hear me out, guys. OCE is on its last legs. Chiefs are the last team to represent us. I don't care about the Chiefs in particular. I care about some of the players, but I care about the future of the region. Now, if Chiefs get relegated, it's wraps. We're not coming back. That's the end. Finito. No one should think about going pro again. There's no pathway. It's very difficult to get in. The way the relegation works, it's going to be very, 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 very difficult for any OS team to make it back to the LCP. So Chiefs, everybody should support the Chiefs. If you care about the region, if you care about OS, if you care about pro play in OS, then you should 100% support the Chiefs. Whether you like the players, whether you like the coaches, whether you like the org, whether you like, I don't fucking know, anything, please support the Chiefs. They're the last hope we have left. That's pretty much my intro. Alright, so game one, Chiefs vs DFM. I just want to make a quick comment that this is going to be a really big test for the Chiefs for this game, for this series, because this is going to be the first benchmark game for the Chiefs to see how good they are. Last week there was Talons. Now you could say that's a write-off. They're a very good team. They didn't have much time to scrim, I believe, from my sources at least. So yeah, this is going to be a really big test for them, whether they can hang. Individually, I think they're really good, but as a team, they don't seem to have much cohesion just yet. So let's look into the draft and see. The first big issue, in my opinion, is the Brom pick. I don't think Brom makes much sense in this game, besides obviously the lane being semi-decent and being able to leverage vision. I don't think it's a very good pick for the draft, for the team composition, how the team wants to play, the identity of the team composition. I don't think it's a very good pick. Um, if you look at the draft on the left, Chiefs draft, is that they want to engage. Now, the primary engage tool in this comp is Wukong, and you can have Aurora as secondary engage or vice versa. But it's not enough CC layering for MF to have good old angles, and it's not good enough for the combo. I've looked at other games from other regions where Aurora is paired with Wukong, and the majority of the time that is paired with an engaged champion that is enabled to enable CC layering. And that makes it much easier for them to play fights because they want to play off snap engages and they want to play from angles. So yeah, I think this is quite a big blunder because I think Brom ends up being completely useless. And even if you want to be really nitpicky, you could say picking a champion like Leona, right, would make it harder for them to pick something like Vlad that ends up being really good this game because it's able to scale both into Aurora and Cassante and ends up becoming a really big problem in the side lane later on. So yeah, and obviously having a CC tool makes it much harder for them to pick Vlad and makes it much harder for them to pilot Vlad in the team fights. So yeah, let's look into the first big issue in the game, and that is the Raptor sequence, the Raptor respawn sequence to be precise. So let's look into that. And this is really where the game kind of exploded first, was the first big explosion, I would say. Now, in this stage of the game, I think Chiefs are in a really good spot. They have both mid and top push, and they are playing for the Raptor respawn. Milan's in really bad condition. Uh, Jimmy is in a better condition than Arya. So in theory, this is a good play, right? The idea of this play is correct. They're playing for the respawn, and Pantheon walks in, and Wukong has Braum with here with him. MF doesn't fully have to move. I would say that she just has to hover just for a second and then push in the top wave again. That's all she really needs to do. But yeah, the play starts here, and in this frame in particular, we see multiple things that confuse me. First of all, Braum has a passive on Pantheon, and Pantheon doesn't have a fully stacked passive, and Wukong has all his abilities up with 75 armor at 4 minutes into the game, and that is before he has a fully stacked passive plus Braum with him. So that means once he goes in, see here, in this frame, he has 102 armor at 4 minutes into the game. Now that is ridiculous. Okay, that is really OP. So for them to not fight this, and for Mia to just play for the smite fight, seems a bit weird, in my opinion, because I think they're in a really good condition, both mid and top, and they're in a good condition in support jungle to fight this. And then this ends up being bad. The compounding mistake after this is that Brom goes in after Wukong uses all his spells, and DFM hadn't used any spells at that stage, so ends up being really good for DFM to fight this afterwards because they end up being on completely different pages. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think the language is an excuse. These guys both speak English and Korean, so this should never be an issue. And this ends up just booming the game because if you look at the game, you have Pantheon, the champion that wants to fight early on, and accelerate the game and have this sort of volatility. But yeah, it ends up being just really bad for everyone involved, and it ends up impacting the game for the next 5 minutes or more. So yeah, let's just look into the play afterwards. So yeah, Luan ends up dying to Pantheon ult eventually. But yeah, the first big play after that is the grab fight. Okay, so right now you have both top and mid getting pushed in. That is kind of a byproduct of what happened early on. Arya managed to not use TP. He just managed to push in the wave after Jumian had to base in TP. So he ends up having a recall, and then he ends up having a better lane condition for quite a while. And after that, you see that also Milan and Hub have pushed in the wave first and they can move first. Now, that being said, it's still not a bad fight to take for the Chiefs, simply because they have really good angles. But the problem lies again somewhat on the Braum pick. I think Braum is not a very good champion in this position because, first of all, not only does he play it bad, I think the champion is just really bad, obviously engaging. It's not what he wants to do. And it doesn't really enable what Chiefs want to do, where they want to play from angles and they want to play for snap engages. It doesn't make much sense. It doesn't create enough pressure on the space. So yes, you see Brom just used Q before and missed. But again, he's this close up, but he's not creating any pressure on the space because he's playing Brom. All he does is just press ult, and that's it. But if you have a champion like Leona or Rakan that can follow up engage on the Wukong, or can just press R and enable and let him flash or let him use his cleanse, then yeah, it makes it much harder for Varus to play the game. And not only just this play itself, but the follow-up plays in the future fights, it makes it much harder for them to play because they have to respect multiple champions, not just the Wukong engage, which is much easier to just get out of. So yeah, they need to have some sort of champ that enables CC layering. And yes, you could say that Mia played this poorly. We will look at that in a second. But yeah, I think this play overall was in theory not bad. It's just that they didn't really have the best champions. Like if they had a better champion here, Brom, it would have been much better. Um, and it's not just on that. I think also, as I was about to mention, I think Mia played this pretty poorly. He W's over the wall and then ERs. I think that's poor. I think he should start with flash ER and then reposition with W. I talked to somebody about this and has played a lot of Wukong. And also a bit confused as to why Cassante managed to TP second when he has pushed in the wave first. I'm not sure if he's scared of Jace just getting the bot turret. Maybe that's why. But yeah, just a lot of little things that end up adding up, and yeah, costing the Chiefs in this particular fight. Yeah, little things like that cost you very, very dearly, especially in this level of play. So yeah, the next play that we will look at is, I believe, the dragon fight that they end up losing. So yeah, let's look into that in a second. Just trying to find the timer again. So yeah, so this ends up starting. This play ends up starting with DFM starting the Rift Herald, and right now Cassante is basing, as you see on this frame, and you have Aurora bot side. And now the top turret's relatively low, and Ari is top side for this play. So Aurora can push in this bot wave, but the point where I think it becomes too much is where she starts hitting the turret. I think in this position, because Cassante has no TP, and they are able to play for this dragon, and that is the best time to play, I would say right now, because I think this game doesn't get easy for them, especially in side lane. So I think Aurora, after pushing this wave, instead of hitting the turret, she should base go top side. Cassante goes bot, and he has tempo on Jace. He can push in that bot wave in, as Aurora does later on. And then Aurora can TP in and then play from an angle, or she can play for whatever else. But definitely, I think this play, what they did here, is much more suboptimal. I think, yeah, just having Aurora topside here and then she's able to TP is much, much better, because what happens is just shortly after is both Chief and, sorry, both Chiefs mid and bot lane get prio, and they have tempo, and they're able to create some pressure on the river, and they're able to gather some control, but they quickly lose their control once they see that Cassante is walking down, or they know Cassante is walking down. They don't even see it because of Rora's bot side. So now they lose all the space, and that makes it much harder for Chiefs to play. Now again, I'm reiterating the fact that Chiefs want to play from angles, and they want to play in chokes. So it makes it much harder for them to play when they lose control of the terrain, they lose control of vision, they lose control of the map in general, right? So once they lose control of the bushes and all the terrain, I think it makes it much harder for them to engage. They want to be playing from fog a lot of the time, especially with Aurora. So once Aurora is spotted and stuff like this, it just makes it much easier for DFM to play. It doesn't really pressure them too much. And yes, Chiefs end up getting the space back, and a miracle engage from Bio happens. But then they end up playing this fight poorly anyway afterwards. I think they should spread out a lot more and play a lot more reactive. But yeah, after this, the game is just completely doomed. And I think it's just a few things, and it really tells you that at this level of play, when you're making, just a couple of errors, you're gonna get punished. We're not in OCE anymore, and yes, only two of these players are from OCE, but still, I think it's still evident to see that they lack a lot of cohesion in the decision making from the Raptors. I think they weren't sure how to play the Rift Herald play as well. I think, yeah, it was just a lot of errors, some individual, and then some as a team. But yeah, that's pretty much it for game one. Game two, we'll be looking at some other things. I think there's a lot more in there. So yeah, let's look into that one next. All right. Well, let's look into the second game. Didn't really have much to talk about in the draft. I think the draft was pretty solid for the Chiefs. I think they had pretty good answers. Cassante obviously banned, so they opted for the Scion. I think overall, though, it was quite good. I think something also worth mentioning, I think Talia bowling is pretty fucking useless. So whatever they decided to cook there, I don't think it was good. Um, so yeah, pretty much the only worth thing worth mentioning in the other game. I think Chiefs played their game pretty well. I think the lane swap was very successful. They put Mbessa behind, and I think as you can see in a second here, at 4 minutes 55, Ambessa has 4 farm and she's level 3. Now, this is worth noting, obviously, especially in the later on there's a play specifically that revolves around the fact she is this behind, and I think Chiefs didn't really capitalize on that. So, yeah, that being said, the first play that I really want to look at, just a quick reminder, guys, I don't really have the replay files, and I'm watching everything through the replay on YouTube, so I probably did miss out on a lot of things, but I am mentioning the things that I see, and the things that are kind of just easy to pick out, I would say. Um, so yeah, the first way I wanted to look at was this one here, 15 minutes 55. So Cyan is pushing the bot wave, and Embess is pushing the top wave. Now you have a cannon wave. Now for viewers that are not too familiar with the competitive scene, or just not high elo in general, a lot of teams coordinate plans, moves, turns, as people call it, or tempo around cannon waves. So in this particular scenario, they can use this cannon to siege the mid turret. Now, you have many options, actually. You have 2 options. I think the first option would be to keep controlling top side and playing for the Rift Herald, and denying Mbessa from hitting the top turret, because again, what the first comment I made was Mbessa was really behind. Now, she's 1.5 levels down to Sion at least. So her getting XP like this and getting the turret, I do not like it. Also keep in mind that if you see here, Chiefs have control, vision control of the Rift Herald, and the Zia has no TP. So the fact they opted out for the safest option, which arguably is just a bad option, is just the Dragon. I think they could, ideally, if they were confident, now that's something that a lot of teams that maybe haven't been winning that much don't have, is that they should be able to 4-man siege this turret, because they have 5 grubs, and they are able to threaten the turret because they know SC's tempo is down, so they should be able to just staunch the turret, and break it pretty easily on the cannon. I don't think Talia can just wave clear by herself everything. Or yeah, as I said, alternatively, the other option is to go topside and play for the Rift Herald, because Zia has no TP, because they used the bot lane to flank, I believe, Jumian earlier on, or maybe it was something else. But yeah, Zia's TP is down, so I think this play was bad because they ended up just trading, and I think this is actually a winning situation for DFM, because later on you will see that just a few minutes later, DFM actually catches up in gold and actually goes up in gold in one stage. So here again, this is a similar play. They just don't seem very confident in breaking mid turret. So here, 17 minutes around here. So you see right now in this frame, you see Alistair base, right? So you know his tempo, you know his exact tempo base because you saw him base. So now they have both top and bot pushed, so they have tempo on both sides, meaning that they can group mid and break the turret, right? So everything up to this point was correct. Now, the problem with this is that because Talia has access to the wave and it is a non-cannon wave, they're able to actually just kill this wave. What Sion should be doing is he needs to be sitting by the turret, sitting where Talia is, and pressuring the entrance, or pressuring her off the wave in order to break this turret. Because what Sion is doing right now is literally nothing. And Talia has no flash, so she shouldn't be able to just easily get this turret when her team is based, and Zia is topside and Ambessa is bot side. So this is a really bad for DFM, and they end up actually not getting punished whatsoever. Sion does literally nothing, and then after this they put in this position again where they have to make a decision, and Chiefs again blunder pretty hard, I would say. I do think that in this position, I do think that this top lane wave does not matter whatsoever. Now, you could say that, yeah, okay, Sion can go to this wave, but if he decides to go to this wave, he cannot just kill 3 range creeps and then go back mid again. He has done nothing for the last minute, so he needs to either commit to the mid play and try to deny the Rift Herald turn, or go topside and actually fully crash the wave topside. And then yeah, the problem with this now is that Jimian as well for the last 2 minutes has not caught any creeps whatsoever, and it's really awkward because now Jimian goes bot side, and then he's zoned off bot wave as well, and then he has to TP top to catch the wave. Now, ideally, what I talked to somebody about this, the ERL coach from Koi did mention that I think the play worth doing is that for the cannon wave turn, as we mentioned before, and we talked about that topic, is that I think they should 5-man group mid wave and deny the cannon wave turn, the Rift Herald as 5, essentially just staunch the wave since Ambassador's bot side, and then try to deny that. And then Victor can TP bot and then catch that wave, and then he can also catch the next wave, and he'll be fine. But yeah, essentially what happens here is that they're just not on the same page whatsoever. I think Bio feels pressured to group, but then he doesn't really know what to do. I think yeah, it's just a calamity of errors. Uh, yeah, just it keeps going on, and it's pretty sad to watch really, considering the Chiefs were pretty much, I would say, winning for the majority of this game so far. But yeah, they end up winning this game, however. But still, it is pretty sad because I think they were in a really good spot. And I think if this team, the blue team, was better, I think they could have also just ended up losing the game. So yeah, I mean, I think here, small error by Bio, I think catching the wave way too high, just because he has no mid prior. So then he has to burn flash and ult, and then he has to TP. And yeah, so essentially that kind of sucks for them. But I think in this position here, I talked to Tien about it. Ground zero top. I'm not sure if he actually wants me to mention it, but I think yeah, like I think in this position, I don't think San should go bot side and TP right away. I think he can just catch mid and then TP if there is a fight that happens. I think it's completely fine for him to catch that wave because now the problem with him TPing is that it actually forces Chiefs to do something on the map because they're losing top wave, they're losing mid wave, so they're essentially forced to do this Atacon. But the problem with that is that they have no control anywhere in the river. So now they're essentially fighting in this little pocket of space with nothing. They're essentially fighting in the dark because if you actually look at the wards and the pink wards, they don't have any visions control set up. So they're essentially playing in the dark with their eyes closed, pretty much just like as bad as it can get. And if when you're playing an Atacon, from what I've seen and talked to people about, is that you need to at least have control of one tribush or you can play off. Now they have no control of the tribushes. And don't get me wrong, I think this is actually, if Chiefs can actually get a good fight, I think it's actually a really good time to fight simply because they have uh, they have good items at this stage of the game. They have 2 items. I do believe that Renata, if I go back, you see here, you see Renata has 1 full item, and then Kalista has 2 items, so she's pretty much as strong as she can get. And then Sign has 2 items. So this is actually a good time to fight for Chiefs. It's just that they don't really have the space to fight, nor do they have the control to fight. Um, but yeah, I think also that the way that they played this fight and maneuvered the fight was not the best, simply because again, like they didn't really put themselves in a position where they can actually uh, make the fight easy for them. I think again, I talked to somebody about this, and I think Sion should force, based on how strong he is, he should force the left side and Tribush out because I don't think he can walk through Zia, but I think he can walk through the left side and then try to force them out of there. So at least they have some control and then able to deny one angle from Rayfaki. As you can see here, Rayfaki does have the angle on the left, which I think Sion could be covering, and then that could potentially delay the engage and make it harder for them to engage on Jimian and Lemus. But yeah, like, and they end up losing this fight. There really isn't much else to comment, simply because uh, this fight was really like just really sad to watch. I mean, Chiefs again had better items, but still ended up losing it because they just have the worst objective setup, simply put. But besides this, I think later on, I should say, Chiefs end up winning the game. So again, I don't really want to make the video too long. I just wanted to comment on the little negative things that Chiefs are doing and potentially could fix. But yeah, moving on to the next game. I think this one's a lot shorter simply because they got completely rolled, and I think they made a lot of individual errors this time around, which is different from this game. I would say except Jimian. I think Jimian's the only one that made a bad mistakes, and you could also argue that Bayer also didn't have a great game. A lot of when it came to the crucial moments. Okay, so let's look into the next game. All right, last game of the series. We know how that went. If you watched it, it wasn't great. It wasn't pretty, but let's just say that there is still hope. Based on the next series at least. I did say it was Team Vikings, I think, last time early on in the video, but yeah, it was Team Wales. So yeah, I do correct myself there. Overall, though, I think this draft was fine. I don't really have many comments on it again, simply because there's a lot of champions obviously banned out because of the format, and they have Corki, they have Galio as a response. Now this one's going to be a little bit different. I'm just going to skim through the game itself simply because the game was very fast and it was over very quickly. So yeah, so overall, they ended up getting pretty decent champs, right? You get Corki, you have Galio as a response to Rumble. You have Kindred into hard engaged comms, which is pretty good, and then you have Kali, which is a matchup that is considered fine into Yasuo as a response. I think it's fine. But yeah, I think overall, I think I would say, Chiefs probably edge in the draft. I think honestly the drafts haven't been bad from Chiefs. I think that's something worth mentioning. I said maybe the first game again. I really hated the Braum pick. I think it was awful. But yeah, I'm gonna skip through this, and yeah, let's look through the third game. Yeah, so LCP Force can't take OCE out of OCE. All right, let's just skip through. So, okay, Jimmy ended up playing the lane pretty well. They ended up opting for the normal, just standard lane matchups, which I think is fine for both teams. Yeah, Jimmy ended up having to burn Flash, same as Ari there, and force Gragas mid. So overall, I think that's a win for Chiefs. And yeah, I think the first thing that I would say and comment on, and I think it was a positive sign, which is something that I really haven't talked about much in this video, was that they did a really good tempo swap, I think, on the top side, and then ended up having Corki and Leona first to top, and then having this initial setup at 5 minutes 30, which is a good time to set up for the Rift. For the Grubs. But the first comment I want to make though is I think, well, sorry, not the first comment. The second comment I want to make on is I think Jimin. I think again I wasn't very impressed with how he played. Now I think it's not just how he played, but rather the decisions that he made. Now I'm not too familiar with the mid matchups 100%, but all I know is that if you are half HP when the grubs spawn at 6 minutes, actually, if you're a third HP when the grubs spawn, I definitely think that you've done something wrong, whether you have traded wrong, or whether you have built the wrong items, or you've taken the wrong runes. Now, he went Bone Plating, he went Dark Seal, and he went D-Ring, and he already has used TP, and he has no refill. So somewhere along these lines, he has made an error. Whether it's the trading, which potentially is kind of inevitable sometimes in some matchups. I think it's kind of hard to avoid trading sometimes into Yasuo, especially if you're a melee champion. So maybe, yeah, maybe it's possible that he kind of stopped up there, but his condition was really bad for the grubs, and this actually ended up being relevant. And this doesn't just apply to Jimmy too. The condition of Luon was also a little bit bad because they were a little bit not on the same page. Again, I'm not sure if Luon thought that Galley was in range to ult here. Now, I think if he was in range, then it was a good play because Guon has no flash. But it doesn't seem like Galio is in range until probably now, based of at least what I think is the range. And that ended up costing Luan quite heavily because now his condition is as bad as Jimmy's. Now Jimmy wants to base, he can't base. Ari hits 6 first and then pushes in the way first in a 1v2 situation, and then gets control of the line bush. Now Jimin is half HP, Luan's half HP, and it's a complete disaster everywhere. Essentially, they cannot fight this, and if they do fight this, which they do, by the way, Luan actually ends up making a really good play. Just the problem is that he's way too low. Now, just imagine that Jimin is, you know, full HP, Luan's full HP, and Bio didn't have to use mana to actually push in the mid wave in order to move. I'm not sure if that was necessary, but I think the mana kind of did cost him a little bit. Like I think he only had like one spell in him. He can't Q anything. But yeah, that's not really super important. I think the most important part is the fact that Jimin is half HP, Luan's half HP. But honestly, like I think this is a really beautiful play. I think this is as good as an engage as you can get. You're timing Gragas' flash to the T. He has no flash, and you're engaging on the right target that is obviously contesting the grub. Now, another key thing to note, I think that it kind of highlights the moral of the story here. Now, this is something that is minuscule, but it could also dictate that that they're not on the same page. But it is sometimes a frame thing where you can't really do much about. But Lemus does end up queuing the grub. Now that is a significant portion of his damage as Koki, especially in the early game. So yeah, just wanted to mention that little thing, but everything else is mostly the irrelevant part. They do miss out on some damage, and if they lived longer and maybe they could get 2 rotations of spells on Leona or a little bit more time on Akali, they maybe actually could have won this fight. But simply because Jimin was way too low at the beginning of the grubs, and so was Luan because he went in too early, because he probably thought that Galio was in range. Again, they're not on the same page. If that is the case, then that ended up costing the grubs. So I think overall, though, I think the play itself, the idea to contest the grubs, probably once they get this low is probably wrong. I'm not sure if they can actually commit once they get to this part. It seems really hard just because, I mean, Jimin is quite literally half HP and getting hit by Yasuo Qs on cooldown. So yeah, next thing I wanted to mention, and I think this is probably the most concerning point of the entire video, is the dragon setup, which I generally was extremely shocked by at this level of play. Simply because I think even I have seen my team last year, Ground Zero, do this at a very early stage of our formation, right? So now we have, okay, you see Gragas. Sorry, I'll turn up the sound a little bit just in case people don't like that. But yeah, the first thing I want to comment is, okay, so you have bot side prior. You don't have prior mid. That is fine because you have bot side prior. Now, in a dragon setup, Ground Zero was really good at this, and something that we were pretty just confident on is that when you play a dragon, when you play an objective like Grubs or Dragon that you can pull out, you should pull it towards the one side one side. Now you have, in a second you'll see actually right here you see Luan clear out this pink ward, and then it zooms out and you see that they have pink ward here, in this little ramp area. So they should be able to pull the dragon towards the left. Now they know where Gragas is because he's literally on vision, and they know that the bot lane is bot side. So why not pull the dragon towards the area where you need to connect Akali to because she has no prior, and where Leona is, and where your vision is, and pull them away from bot side. So it makes it harder for them to actually connect to mid jungle, and they can play off this engage. Now, Luan is in a great spot, right? In theory, because if Kindred should be towards the left side pulling this dragon, Jimin is over the wall, and Corki could also be on the left side if the dragon was on the left. So this, in theory, is not a bad play. It's just that they're all over the place, and then they have to give all control, and they give up dragon. It's just complete chaos all around. I mean, they just have no idea what's going on. Not to mention that Lemus looked completely lost here after he pushed in the wave. I'm not sure why he's hesitant about just hitting the dragon with Kindred. Was he just running away from the sapling? Maybe he was just running away from the sapling. Okay, well, there is a plant there. I'm not sure if he needed to do that, but it did delay the dragon a little bit just because he looked like he was running away for a long time. But yeah, I think the big problem though is this, the fact that they were not pulling the dragon towards one side and playing of the vision and control they have in the river. And they ended up just going in. Luon's going in by himself because, again, they're just not on the same page. And then they end up just having to give the dragon. It is just genuinely chaos. I don't really have words to describe it. I mean, it's really low level play, and I think it's just an outlier though. Hopefully, I haven't really watched the Wales games 100% in depth, so we'll need to figure that out. What else is there? So yeah, after that though, like what's even worse is they ended up contesting the dragon, and then they have to leave it. And then even after that, Ash is still first to bot side. So pushes a wave. Kindred's camps are no longer bot side, so now Lemus is just getting dove, and it's doomed. And on the dive, they dive and they trade 1-for-1. So again, another terrible situation. And then after this is when the game is truly over. Um, Leona walks in bot side where she has no place to be. And then they end up dying, and then Lemus gets thrown into another wave, and this is where the game just completely explodes, in my opinion, and the game's officially over, just like that. I think huge errors, individual errors, also on the grubs, and then also huge team errors on the dragon. Oh yeah, so that's pretty much it for this video. I mean, it was pretty fun to do. I enjoy watching the Chiefs game simply because it's the only team we have left. And yeah, maybe I'll make a video for the next one as well, for the Vikings games. I keep calling them Vikings when I know it's not Vikings. Sorry about that. It's Wales. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I really do hope the Chiefs can win this coming week. I do think they have a lot of potential still. I just think they need to iron out all the little differences in gameplay and just be on the same page, really. I mean, it's a lot easier said than done, but I'm sure they can get it done. So yeah, just keep supporting the Chiefs. All right, see ya.